Hello and welcome everybody to tonight's edition of the Vorpal Board stream. I have with me tonight a special guest. I have Peter McPherson, who is the designer of Tiny Towns, which is the game we're going to be looking at tonight. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the Vorpal Board
Hi,
stream.
thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Tonight we're going to be looking at Peter's game, Tiny Towns, which comes out actually later this month. It's going to appear in your friendly local game stores on April 26th. And
hmm
then there will be a full international launch and will be available online on May 10th. And this game you're going to see, we're going to do a playthrough. It kind of defies a one-sentence explanation as to like the type of game it is, but it's really kind of like a spatial town builder, pattern matcher versus game. So me and Peter will be playing against each other to build the most excellent tiny town tonight. And it plays right out of the box. It can handle 1 to 6 players, which I think is awesome because there aren't a lot of games that can handle that many right out of the box without an expansion. It takes anywhere from 30, 45, 60 minutes, depending on how many people you're playing with. The two of us, probably 30 minutes tops, is my guess
Yep.
tonight, which is great for just kind of a quick strategic game. It's got tons of replayability. I've played it a number of times already. And I am looking forward to getting crushed in Tiny Towns tonight. I'm definitely trying to put
Oh,
the
jeez.
pressure on Peter as much as possible before we play.
We'll see.
So I'm going to jump right into a couple questions that I had, Peter, just for you about a designer. This is your first game. Is that correct?
Yep, it's my first published game. I had other designs I was messing around with beforehand, but none that I playtested nearly as much as Tiny Towns, and none that worked out of the gate as early as Tiny Towns did. So it's been tremendously exciting. It's pretty surreal just to see my name on the box still. And I am absolutely just cannot wait for the game to actually come out and see people everywhere playing it. So I'm pretty excited.
Now, tell me a little bit about the process in which you found a publisher. It's AEG.
hmm
You have some people today who are choosing kind of to like go at their own and do like the Kickstarter thing. You have some people who are actually publishers, maybe like small scale publishers, who are running Kickstarters, and then you have publishers that are just doing runs and publishes, and then the big guys are obviously publishing big games. Um, what was your decision making process, or how did you kind of dip your toe into the industry, and then end up making a deal with AEG and get to the point here today? What was that process like?
Well, first off, I got really lucky. I don't think my route is by any means the normal route. PAX Unplugged 2017 was my first game convention, and that was when I pitched Tiny Towns. I did do a lot of homework beforehand, so I looked into the companies I was meeting with. I set up meetings beforehand, and I made sure to follow whatever their preferred route of contact was, whether they had a submission form on their website or whether they wanted a specific email you should reach out to. So I set up all the meetings beforehand, researched what their games are, what they're looking for as much as I could. Um, and then I showed up with sell sheets and a few prototypes. So I knew early on I wanted to find a publisher, and I didn't want to go the Kickstarter route just because I had looked into that, not so much because I was curious about doing it myself, but just to figure out what would be involved in the process. And from what it sounds like, it's sort of like running a small business or starting a small business. So there's a lot of risk and a lot of just knowledge involved in all the logistics. And I was like, I want to make the design and find someone else who's excited about it, and they can do all the logistics and distribution and all that fun stuff. So, and of course, there's an amount of trust that comes with that. You have to find a publisher who you trust to take your vision and turn it into the best it can be and something that is sellable. Um, and so, of course, AEG put a lot of their own touches on this game, but I was lucky enough to be involved in the entire process, and I got to put my say into everything, which I'm really grateful for because they're a big publisher for sure. But they respected me, a brand new designer, new to design in the whole industry and everything, and listened to a lot of what I had to say, which was really cool. So I just got the best of both worlds, and I'm super happy with how everything turned out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's when I first met you, it was Peter and I live fairly close to each other, and we met at a local game designer night. Um, and just sort of chatting through that experience with you of like, you showed up at PAX and sort of did the go around, and obviously they saw something in the design, and I think obviously rightly so because this is a really fun game.
Thanks.
But it does seem like uh, you kind of had it all work out. It was like kind of the
Yep.
perfect storm in a lot of different ways, which is great because to see the game get made has got to be super exciting.
Hmm.
Now, one of the things I've been guilty of this in the past as well is like I think sometimes people think like a designer sits quietly in like a wood paneled library or like maybe on a mountain like looking over a valley, and they just sort of think for a long time, and then like a
Hmm.
design comes out fully formed. It comes out of their brain, right? And then it becomes a game. And I know
Yep.
that it's like way messier than that. With Tiny Towns, how was that process? Was there like a ton of iteration and a lot of changes, or was this pretty smooth where you came up with kind of the concept and it just kind of like very easily flowed into what ended up as the final design?
It really was pretty smooth. Like I said, I got lucky with the whole process, and so every design since then has been so much harder. And I've been like, my gosh, why is this game so terrible? Why is everyone asking to leave my playtest? Um, I mean, so the original idea for Tiny Towns really came from this word game that my dad and I like to play at restaurants on napkins while we're waiting and stuff, where you have a 5 by 5 grid. Each player has their own grid, and you take turns saying letters that both players have to put in their grid, and you try to make as many words as you can, and that's basically it. So I wanted there to be some game where both players have to deal with the same thing and take turns choosing it. So that's where the resource idea came from, and then I always liked the different building structures in Minecraft. I don't know if you've played Minecraft, but you can make thousands of items using only a few resources. And I thought that was so cool. I wanted to see that implemented in a game somehow. And then I had a really boring desk job proofreading financial newsletters and started sketching down some ideas one day. So a lot of the core stuff was there at the beginning. The 4 by 4 grid, and I forget whether it was 4 resources initially or 5. Um, and even some of the building types were there in the beginning, like the tavern and cottage and farm. Those were all building types I started out with. And I remember going home from work that day and playtesting with my girlfriend. We just drew grids on a sheet of paper, and I got some random resource cubes, and we were like, okay, this feels like it could be a thing. And from there was lots of iteration on balancing the different buildings. Monuments were added in much later on. We quadrupled the number of buildings in the game because only 7 different buildings wasn't interesting enough. But the core of the game of naming a resource, putting it on your board, and making patterns to create buildings has been there from the start.
So you really, I was really hoping you're letting me down here, Peter. I was hoping for, I was hoping for this. Oh yeah, it was awful, and it went through all these crazy iterations. No, that's fine. That's cool because I guess that's just an illustration of that. The design process is very different, right? Like there are games that go through, for lack of a better term, kind of like development hell or design hell, where
Right.
they're just getting iterated on and iterated on and iterated on, and then there's aha moments and breakthroughs and stuff. But it seems like you kind of had that very core concept right out of the gate, and people will see when we play it, it it builds well. The whole game kind of is built on top of that core concept.
Mhm.
And I could see that okay, once you figure out that and that feels good, well then you can start talking about adding additional building types and adding different ways that the farms feed the cottages and all that sort of stuff. So that's cool. Um, I know that you are in a group here. This is because I know you and I've met you, but you are in a group of designers of kind of like-minded individuals here in the capital region of New York, in upstate New York. And I wanted to ask you about that because I don't know if I don't know if that's common that that folks out there are able to get together with other designers and kind of kick things around maybe as frequently as you guys are. Is
Mhm.
that was that a real valuable resource for you during the design and sort of the development of this game, or did it not? Was this kind of done separately from that whole group? How did that work? Were you able to bounce ideas out of those guys?
So that group is called Spielbany, and they've been in this area, I think, for about 15 years. They've been holding their quarterly mini conventions and then playtest nights from time to time. And I joined them, I guess it was spring of 2018. So I
Okay.
had signed Tiny Towns at that point, and I did some testing with them to figure out some of the monuments, the balance of them, and whatnot, but not extensively.
Okay.
So some expansion stuff I have worked on a little bit with them. Um, but they are an absolutely tremendous resource to have, just to have a local group of people who are not only willing to play test but interested in playtesting and
Right.
really want to give you useful feedback is so valuable. I think Cardboard Edison posted on Twitter their list of different regional playtest groups, and I responded lamenting the fact that there was nothing in Capital Region New York, and why is everything so far away? It's a
Right.
populated area. And then either the Spielbany Twitter account or it may have been Jeff Warrender's Twitter account. He's at Bell Tower Games. Responded and said, "Oh, I'm a part of Spielbany and we're local." And so that was how that connection started. And I've missed very few playtest nights since then because, I mean, without a playtest group, I can only design as fast as I can playtest. I can only write ideas down in a notebook and create prototypes for so long before I say, okay, I have nothing more to learn or explore here until I put this in front of people. So we meet up about every 2 weeks for playtest nights, and it is just tremendously, tremendously useful to get your games in front of people really regularly. It just speeds up my whole design process.
Yeah, and I love I go and I show off Vorpal at some of these designer nights, and I love just sort of watching. And the process of seeing, even in like a 3-4 month period, of seeing kind of like the kernel of a game idea develop over those periods, and like having that ability to say like, let's try this weird thing, and then be like, that really that was a dog, like we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then the next month it comes back and it's like there's a new twist on it. I think that's exciting, and I imagine that's got to be pretty motivating, instead of the design process being kind of like a very solitary thing. Being able to kind of bounce stuff off and have that little community seems like it would be really valuable.
Hmm.
I'm getting dragged in the chat right now by Tuscan Gamer. He says that I need to shave, which I think is like, look at Peter. Peter's got a full beard. You should.
Almost full.
Although mine is I keep telling people that one day I'll hit second puberty, and I'll be able to grow a real beard. So yeah, sorry about my facial hair. Um, so the last thing I wanted to chat about with you is kind of like what you have going on now, because you did allude a second ago to some expansion plans for tiny towns. I don't know if anything is official or you can talk about it or sort of like only in general terms, but is that something that you guys are planning to get out of the gate pretty quickly?
It's something we want to do. I can't talk about nothing's official yet, and I
Okay.
can't talk about when any of this might happen. But we are working on expansion stuff. Like I said before, the core system is always going to be there, and we found it is pretty easy to add stuff in. So we're looking forward to creating a few modular expansions that you can, use multiple of or just one. And I keep saying we because I'm co-designing the expansions with Josh Wood, who was the developer for Tiny Towns, and he's also the designer of Cat Lady, another AEG
Yep.
game. So again, nothing official, but we are working on some ideas. We're pretty excited.
All right, cool. So people can look out for that. Yeah, the beard conversation is still going in the chat. And yes, this is not an official beard. I want it to be clear that this is not. I didn't attempt to do a beard. This is just, I have very pale skin and very dark beard hair, and so just a couple days of not shaving, I end up looking like this. So it seems like the board game industry has a lot of beard people. Like they can grow really big, impressive beard, and
Hmm.
and that is just not. That's not me. I just don't have the genetics for it. So, and then last question about design stuff. I think you were at Unpub a couple weeks ago. And if my Twitter spying is right, I think you were showing off just some experimental kind of in process design work. And it looked like it was about laying out a newspaper. Is that right?
Yes, so that's a pretty recent design. About a month ago, I came up with the idea, and going to Unpub, I had the Tiny Towns expansion, which is pretty polished at this point, and then I wanted to bring something else that was kind of sloppy, and people could give me ideas, and I could iterate on the spot. So that one is Fit to Print, which is a tile laying game about creating the front page of a newspaper. So you play the role of an editor. Technically, you're sort of playing the role of a reporter and a layout editor. and you are grabbing tiles from the center of the table in real time, sort of like in Galaxy Trucker. So everyone is grabbing articles and photos and ads to put into the front page of their newspaper, and you keep on grabbing tiles until you decide, okay, I think that's going to fit on the board that is my front page. And then you go into layout mode. And once you do that, you cannot grab any more tiles or put any tiles back. You just have to hope you got the right amount.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then you're frantically laying them out. You're still racing the other players because it's all at the same time. And then you score points based on which articles are next to photos. You lose points for any articles and ads you didn't place, and it's just a really hectic time. So it's working. It's working so far. It's working pretty smoothly. So it's been a lot of fun, and I got a ton of great feedback from Unpub.
Yeah, that seemed like just an unbelievable event for that. I haven't been to the Unpub event, like the Unpub specific event, but I have gone and spent a lot of time at the Unpub room at PAX Unplugged, and it was almost overwhelming, just sheer quantity and like closeness of just tons of, it's like
Hmm.
you can turn in a circle and bump into like game design, game design, game design, game design, and they're like in very wide stages of development, which I thought was really neat. There's some that
Yeah.
look just like super conceptual, maybe, a lot of like hand-drawn stuff, and then there's stuff that looks like this has got to be getting pitched somewhere right now, or it's
Right.
it's got a board, they've done a single run of the game or whatever. And I just found that as like a creative space, like very inspiring to kind of see that whole gamut. And I imagine Unpub is just more of that, right? It's just an even larger
Yep.
quantity of that.
Yeah, it's just more of that, and like you said, all the games are at such wildly different stages, and that's great because all the designers are there for feedback. It doesn't matter whether they're saying, "I think my game is done. Could you let me know?" or "Hey, I wrote this down in some index cards, 3 nights ago. What do you think?" Everyone is there. Everyone is there to playtest, to give feedback, or to receive feedback, and it's a really cool experience. It's impossible to walk away from that not feeling inspired and not having a ton of ideas in your head.
Yeah, that's cool. I gotta make a trip to Unpub one time and just sort of see it. I think that'd just be an incredibly fun time.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so thanks for kind of going over that whole process. I'm always very interested to talk to people because and I like where we're going in board games. That like people's names are on the boxes now. Like I really I think that's awesome. And there always were games that had and like that you would know a few designers or whatever, right?
Hmm.
But now it seems like designers' names are on most of the boxes. I feel like
Oh yeah.
now, which I think is neat. I mean, like you watch a movie, right, and you see who directed it, and then you actually start following that person. Like you enjoy their creative vision, right? So,
Hmm.
um, so I like talking to designers because when I buy a game, I want to know kind of how it came to be, and it's been actually very fun kind of interacting with you as you're gearing up for this release. So that's very neat for me. What we're going to do now is a little bit more in my wheelhouse, I guess, which is using
Hmm.
this system that I'm working on. We're actually in the Vorpal Board game system. It's a web platform that lets you play physical board games with people online. So tonight we're going to play Peter's game, and we're playing it with him somewhere else, and so he's totally remote, and he has none of the pieces or parts or anything. And then I'm sitting in my basement here, and I have the game sitting on the desk next to me, directly down here to my left. There it is. There's the Tiny Towns game. And the way that it works is we're taking high resolution photos that are getting streamed to a web browser, and we're going to be playing in the web browser. So everything you see today is us playing in a web browser together. And then Peter is going to be interacting with the game using actual virtual components. So all of his stuff is pieces and parts that I scanned in with my cell phone earlier yesterday. And so I will throw out that this is a beta, and anytime we're beta testing, anything could happen, right? So it's possible that you see some weird things. Hopefully, we don't run into anything strange tonight. But we're going to do a session of playing Tiny Towns, and we're going to start with Pete giving his couple minute overview of just how the game works. So I will let you take it away.
Alrighty. So in tiny towns, each player is the mayor of their own tiny town, represented by a 4x4 grid. And you are going to be constructing buildings using the 5 different resources in the game. And you're going to be creating the patterns that match the building cards. So I'll do a quick example for you. If you wanted to make a cottage, you would need to put a yellow in the corner there, and then a blue right there, and then a red over there. And so once you have that, you can tell everyone, I'm building a cottage, and then you remove the resources from your board and you put a cottage down in any one of the empty spaces where the resources were. And the way you get these resources is you're going to take turns naming them as Master Builder. So the Master Builder token, which is that hammer there, is going to get passed back and forth. When you have the hammer, you name one of the 5 resources. So you say brown, and now everyone must place a brown on their board, whether they want it or not. Once you've placed a resource, you can't move a resource, and you can only remove it by incorporating it in a building. And because you can only have one resource or one building per square, things get really cozy as you work on multiple buildings at once. And then as you complete projects, you have room to breathe again. But eventually, your board will totally fill with resources. And at that point, your town is done. You can score everything. And any players who are still in can continue naming whatever resources they want. So it's very advantageous to be the last player in the game. Any empty space is going to be worth -1 point, and that is any space that doesn't contain a building. So it's always good to build something, even if it's not worth a ton of points. And that is pretty much it. And then we'll see what buildings we're playing with this game, and I can talk about how those score briefly. Everyone also has 2 monument cards. Those are the 2 cards off to the side there. So your monument is a private building only you have access to. You build it just like a normal building. You can only make it once, and it gives you a one-time ability or a new way to score or something like that. And that's pretty much it.
Sweet. So one of the things that I love about this game is, from a replayability standpoint, every time you play, the same 7 types of buildings exist, but there are little tweaks on each of them. So earlier I shuffled these cards, and we are now playing with one of each of the different building types, and each of them has their own kind of little rules. So for example, this inn, you get 3 victory points if it's not in a row or column with another inn. So every game you play, you have to very quickly think, okay, what's my strategy going to be? Because now this game has inns instead of, tell me another one that off the top of your head, Peter, that's a green.
It's got inns instead of taverns.
Taverns. Okay, so in the
Yeah.
tavern operates and scores slightly differently than the inn. I think it's safe to say that they all are at least kind of like thematically pretty similar to each other. Like farms,
Hmm.
all the farm related cards kind of feed the cottage cards in one way or another, I think.
Yep.
And then the inns usually are, placing them spatially near each other gives you different amounts of points. So every single game it's a little bit different. And I'm going to say right now that I haven't played with a lot of these locations. So although I've played with a number of them, I haven't played with the Abbey, which I always like that thematically it kind of makes sense. Like the Abbey doesn't want to be by like
Right.
the market or the inn. Like it doesn't want to. The Abbey wants to be all by itself.
Yep.
So that's neat that even the cards kind of make sense in the greater lore. Well,
Hmm.
okay, so we have to decide. We have to choose. Welcome, Chakanoi. Somebody in chat has already play tested your game and really liked it, Peter. So
Oh, cool.
you got a fan.
Awesome.
Welcome to the Vorpal Board stream. So we do have to choose one or the other of our monument cards to start, right? We have to
Hmm.
choose one. So,
Yes. So we make this decision after seeing which buildings are in the
oh,
game.
okay,
You
cool.
want to flip those, and I'll talk about those briefly. Then we can choose.
Or are you not actually getting updates on those cards?
Oh no. Yeah,
Oh,
they're all
yeah.
still.
I did flip all those, so that is a little wrinkle that we've already run into.
Hmm.
Connect. And you know probably what it was is we just had such a long period of chatting at the beginning,
Yeah.
that it's possible that one of these dropped a connection on us.
Gotcha.
Get to see how the sausage is made on the stream today. Yeah, I was wondering if you what you thought, uh, what you because I was flipping the cards and you didn't mention anything, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess Pete's not actually seeing the cards getting updated. Chalkanoy wants a high back.
Oh, hi, Chakanoy.
All right, that's pretty good. I like that.
That's awesome that you play tested it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Where did you play it? Did you play it at a convention? How many times do you think you've play tested this so far, Peter?
Oh boy, that's a personal question. I can confidently say, I would say 300 is pretty safe.
Wow. I was looking
Uh,
in the book. There are all the scoring sheets in there, and I was wondering if like you were keeping track via those scoring sheets or something.
Well, I mean, I was keeping track of playtests for a long time, and I know I passed like 150 on my spreadsheets before I stopped updating that. Um, but yeah, and now I can sort of add up the scores in my head. I don't use the score sheets, especially when it's just two players,
Yeah.
which is when most of my playtests happen lately. In fact, a lot of my playtests happen over Skype with
Okay.
a
Cool.
developer. But yeah, we'll say at least 300.
All right. Let's see. He says I played it, or he or she. Sorry, I played it at a con, picked it up at 3 p.m. and well couldn't stop playing until like 8 p.m. I was very lucky. That's
Oh,
great. Five
that's
straight
awesome.
hours. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And Geek Spiel saw it at PAX Unplugged, but the tables were crowded and couldn't stay for an open seat. So that's good news. So what we're gonna do, actually, I'm gonna test something real quick. Gotta refresh. All right, I'm back. I just had to refresh our session there. And sorry about this, everybody. Best laid plans. I don't know why this is not coming in.
Hmm.
Okay, well that's super disappointing. Hold on one second. Okay. So we're just gonna audible a little bit. There we go. Can you see that
Ooh.
one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You got all
So
of
the
our
cards are they're cut off on the top.
Yeah, I gotta reposition the camera. I changed the
Okay.
resolution. So there's that's a little weird bug happened there that it didn't like the resolution that I was streaming. Go a little bit bigger. And then we'll get things set up. Just a comedy of errors going on here.
Hmm.
So do some sort of song and dance, Peter, while I just configure this.
Oh, jeez.
I do like I really like the name of Fit to Print, by the way. You know, like
Okay.
I don't know if the game you know, like how the game is,
Mhm.
but just the idea of like you have to fit the things on, you know, like Fit to Print being a spatial question is kind of
Right.
a neat play on words there. So
Yeah, once I thought of that name, I was like, okay, that's probably gonna stick, and it has. We'll see what happens.
yeah,
But
that the choosing the name from the very get-go type
yeah,
type idea.
Tiny Towns took forever to come up with a name for.
Oh, really?
I think at one point I was literally calling it the Tiny Village game. I don't know how. I don't have anything to say for myself as to why that took as
Yeah,
long as it did.
yeah. I mean, Tiny Town's a good name though.
Yeah,
Like,
thanks.
you know,
I'm happy with.
you got the alliteration going on, which I think is good, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The Tiny Village game, maybe not as
yeah.
maybe not as good. Not that I think that your idea was bad. Okay, so we got a little bit of just sort of positioning stuff to do here, and then we'll be ready to go. Sorry for the delay. I'm gonna have to look into that. I really didn't like that resolution I was streaming at. We get to have some quick technical difficulties. The stream would be no good without some technical difficulties. Okay, so I think we were right in the middle of talking about the various building types.
The different building types, yes. And I can't entirely read these on my end, so it's gonna be a test of my memory of my own game.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Um, but I'm gonna start with cottage, which is the most basic one. Cottage is worth 3 points, but it needs to be fed. In every game, there's going to be one of these farm-shaped buildings that feeds. And in this particular game, it is greenhouse, which feeds one adjacent group of wheat symbol buildings that are adjacent to each other. Um, then we have, let's move on to shed, which is a simpler one. It's simply worth 1 point, and you can place it anywhere. It's not restricted to the spaces where the two resources are. We've got inns, which are worth 3 points as long as they're not in the same row and column as another inn. We have theaters, which score 1 point for every other building type other than theaters in the same row and column. And then we have warehouse, which allows you to stack resources on it that the other player names if you don't want them. And then on future turns, you can swap resources off when the other player names a resource. And then we have Abbey, which is worth 3 points as long as it is not adjacent to either the warehouse, the inn, or the theater. And that's what we've got for this game. So now I'm gonna pick my monument based on that.
Yeah, and some of these monuments
Oh.
really change things up, and can very much alter your strategy. And some of them are I think awful. Not that they're badly not that they're badly designed, but sometimes I look at them and I'm like, oh no, I hate that one. Like just because
Yeah.
the shape of them is very complicated, or it's a bad mix with the buildings that you picked. So I sometimes I shake my fist at the sky when I see the ones that we pick.
Yeah, they're not all good in all situations, and some of them are sort of rule breaking. They let you get around one of the game's core rules, which is nice. So we added those in just to add more replayability, make each game feel very distinct from the rest. So
Okay, so you dropped the one you don't want, right? This guy.
I have dropped it. Yep.
All right, so we'll take it over here, and so we both have our cards. For folks who are watching at home, Pete can see the card he has because he's claimed it, and I can see the card that I have because I've claimed it. That's what these little red and green colors are, and so we can keep our hands secret that way. The rule for how this game starts is the person who last constructed something in the physical world gets to go first. And it's been a while since I've actually built anything. Peter, have you built anything recently?
I don't know if I would say built. I fixed a drawer a couple weeks ago. I had a busted drawer, so I put a nail into it. Do you have any other claims
I
to it?
don't, because I've just been doing software stuff, and I don't think that counts for the
Okay.
theme. So let's go with your drawer. Your drawer counts.
Okay.
Have at it.
Alrighty, then I am going to start us off with a gray.
Ray. Then we are going to move the master builder, this cool wooden hammer indicates whose turn it is. That's really critical when you're dealing with like a 4-player, 6-player game where it's moving all
Yep.
around to keep track. With 2 players, it's probably not as necessary, but we'll move it back and forth. All right, I'm going to do a wheat, yellow.
Okay. Oh, the zoom tool is really cool. I'm using that now.
Oh yeah, so the zoom tool does let you. I should have mentioned that when you were talking about looking at the names of the cards. But yeah, it lets you zoom in on the image. One of the benefits of sending images instead of video is it lets us do this cool stuff. If it was a
Yeah.
video, it doesn't work. It gets so pixelated
Hmm.
and unable to be looked at. So
Yep. Okay, I am going to name another gray.
right.
Mm-hmm. This is one major change we did make to the game. It used to be played behind shields, so you couldn't see what everyone else was working on. Um, Mostly because I didn't want people to be too spiteful in choosing their resources, but then we realized that it's kind of fun when you can deliberately name awkward resources. for your
Yeah,
team.
I think early game, maybe if you play it a lot, you start to get a better feel for what's happening. Early game, I
Hmm.
always have a very hard time keeping track of what people are up to.
Yep.
But then once you get into late game, definitely it's like, oh, how can I more screw over in a nice way, in a tiny town way. But
Yeah.
but yeah, then I can really pay attention. But early game, it's kind of hard for me. But I haven't played it
Yep.
enough to maybe get a feel for it.
Hmm.
Um, hey, happy fun time live, Will. How's it going, man?
Oh, hey, Will, how's it going?
Welcome to the stream. All right, so I'm gonna do a glass,
Mm,
and that's going to complete an inn for me.
nice.
And so now I get to place it anywhere that I had I had those three pieces.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna place it in the corner. There's a cool monument that lets you place stuff wherever you want on the board, which
Hmm.
my wife got last night. And that really changed the game because she could not worry about positioning as much. It was an interesting game that we played.
Yep, that's a fun one. All right, I am going to name red. And then I am going to construct an abbey. I don't think I mentioned this in the rules, but you can construct buildings on anyone's turn. It just has to be after you've placed the most recent resource.
So
So I'm remembering where those spaces were that it was, but it's an abbey, so I'm going to put it in the corner. I want it out of the way.
yeah, so abbeys are always nice because they always score three. Is it constant that they're always 3 pointers?
No, sometimes they're more. I mean, the
Okay.
chapel scores 1 point for every fed cottage, so that can be a ton of points.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna do glass again.
Last I can deal with. I also think I forgot to mention that you can rotate these layouts however you want. Um, so any way you can picture flipping or mirroring the layout is totally fine. Um, alrighty. I am going to. I think I might see what you're working on down there. No, maybe not. I'm going to say brown, wood.
Huh? What do we have? We have a shed today. Oh, sheds are boring, huh?
Boring but versatile.
Yeah, I mean that's actually nice because you can get the 1 point instead of having to waste them.
Right. So if you created like a pocket for yourself, you can
Yeah.
drop that in the pocket.
Okay. That's good. You're a good salesman. I say, I say, oh, they're boring, and immediately you had that one in the holster, ready to go. Pocket, boring but versatile. No, but you're right because a lot of the a lot of these two color ones, you have to position them specifically somewhere on the board in order for them to score. But this
Right.
particular one, you can have it anywhere and get the 1 point, which is nice.
Yep.
So if you need kind of a dump stat,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good dump stat. All right, so okay, sure. All right, I'm gonna do a eat,
Mm.
and then I'm going to build a cottage
Nice.
down here in Cottage Corner. Okay.
Okay, and I am going to do another wheat.
Another wheat.
Can you see me moving the pieces in real time, or does that update every
That
second?
no that one's real time. So
Oh.
those you can actually kind of see them dragging around. So for example, like I'll move this guy so you kind of see it dragging around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to play that wheat. Right there. Okay. So I'm gonna call a glass again. Just I'm a
Ooh.
one trick pony here. I'm just calling glasses.
That is a trickier one for me. Okay. Um, I'm going to say brown,
Um,
and then I've made my greenhouse, so I'm going to put that one in.
Okay, so the greenhouse feeds one continuous group of feeding buildings anywhere in your town. So essentially, you just have to build your cottages all connected.
Yep,
Got,
all adjacent, and adjacent is always orthogonal, up, down, left, right.
got it. Got it. Can't use that's like a $5 word. You can't use that one on the stream. Orthogonal. That's
I
too
know.
bad.
That's why I defined it.
Okay, so I'm still placing my wood. Sorry, let me
That's okay.
figure out how I want to deal with this. Okay. So then I'm going to do another glass.
I don't know about that. Um, yep, I just don't know. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do with that. That's gonna be fine. That is not what I thought you were going to say. Um, and I see what you're going to name next, and I don't like it. Okay, so knowing that, or assuming that, yeah, no, that actually that glass is in the perfect spot. Okay, I'm going to say, I'm gonna say a brown. You don't want that.
No, I don't, man. I really don't. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. We've just been shooting the wrong resources at each other constantly.
Yeah, we were doing very different things right out of the gate.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm going to. I guess I will finish off the theater. I'm gonna do it with a stone.
Just as I feared. I'm gonna put that stone there.
And then I'm going to build the theater. I'll build it where I had my stone. And for folks at home, the theater, the way that works is you get 1 victory point for every unique building in the same row and column as the theater. So essentially that cross that I now have, I'll get a point for every unique building in that cross.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're up, Peter.
Okay, I'm gonna say red.
Cool. That I can actually work with. Are you building anything?
Nope.
All right, I'm going to build a cottage. Right, and then I'm going to say, let's see, what are you up to over there? A warehouse going in.
Mm-hmm.
And I made you dump that glass, I assume, right? So that's probably not part of your plans. Probably another abbey or something.
It's all part of the plan.
Oh yeah, it's all. Oh yeah, it's one big long con. All right, I'm gonna go with a wood. Think you need any, right?
I don't want it. That's for sure. That's gonna go there.
Woodtown.
It's going down in Woodtown.
Right.
Okay, and then I am going to say red again. And make my warehouse.
Warehouses are cool.
Warehouses are really useful.
One of the really neat things for people who haven't touched to this game is the little wood minis for the buildings are very, very neat. And this is the cool thing about this guy. This is the warehouse. He's got this kind of notched top. And what you do is you actually take the resource and put it in the notched top. Which and then I think you can actually do 3 of them, right? You can stack, depending on the building, you can stack up to 3 of them on top of the building, which just looks really cool when you're building this little town. unfortunately, because Pete's remote, he's not going to be able to. But.
Yep.
So the warehouse. Oh, let me read about the warehouse.
So you can stack up to 3 resources on it. I can put a resource on it whenever you say something that I don't want to place in my town. And then in future turns, I can swap resources out. So then if I decide, okay, I do want that one I placed before, but I want to dump this one in my warehouse, you can pull it out.
Now, when you do that pull out, you actually have to put the new one in too?
It has to go in the warehouse, and then the old one has to go out, and then you can put it anywhere.
Okay, so essentially, anytime you use that ability, you're
Yep.
losing 1 victory point.
Well,
in
the
end
thing
game.
is, as soon as you put one thing in the warehouse, you'll never have less than 1 thing in a warehouse.
Right.
You can't take it out. You can only swap it.
Right.
So you get -1 point for everything stored in your warehouse up to 3.
Okay.
So yes, every time you put an additional resource in, -1 point.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Did I just call?
Uh-oh. No, that was me. I said the red.
Okay,
that's
to
what
finish.
the hammer's for.
I know. We missed
Yeah,
it.
I said red, so it is your call. Yeah.
Thanks, Will. I love the changes to the UI as well. Will said he likes the UI. It's been. Cool. That has been, if you listen to the earlier part of the interview, that has been a kind of an awful iterative process. We really decided in the end to just sort of like do minimal. That was the goal, like black and white everywhere, essentially, with just some highlighting colors, and focus on like the board. Like make it so the colors and stuff is the board. No, don't make a real fancy UI. None of that stuff. Just go as minimal as we could, which I think is smart. And also, it's easy for me to do. So, so I can say that it's smart. It's a self-serving. Okay, so it is my turn, even though I forgot to move the hammer. So I'm going to call. Oh man. A wheat. Hello.
Okay. Now I am going to make myself an inn.
Cool. Cool.
Had that blue sitting there for a long time. I do have a plan for it.
Sounds like you're trying to. Who are you trying to convince, Peter? You trying to...
I'm not sure. And I'm going to name a brown.
Brown, man. Sure.
I'm very sure. Yes.
Extremely sure.
I started that. What was it? The Brown Town corner down.
Yeah, yeah.
So I gotta finish
yeah.
where
It
I
looks
started.
like you're gonna be doing. Well, you're gonna be doing theater out of that.
Yeah.
Like I can't say I like that. All right, I'm gonna hope I don't regret this. I'm gonna put it down. This is one of those situations where it's just sort of like you throw it away and put it in a spot, and you're like, well, hopefully I'm able to work it out later.
Yeah.
Hopefully my movements work. Because you really are buying yourself more space. So I like that part of the game where you have to kind of keep in your head almost like the space, but across time. Like, okay, right. I need to remember that I need to clear out some of these squares so I can build this other thing I thought of down there.
Yep.
Which is neat. Okay, I'm going to... I'm going to call a glass.
Excellent.
Yeah, I know it helps you, but I don't care. So then I'm going to build, on that side, I'm going to build a inn. And I just need to make with inns, I need to make sure that I don't have them in the same row or column as any other inns. So I'm going to put this one here because he's not in the same row or column as any of the others. Yeah. You are up.
Okay. Let's see. I think I'm going to name... I'll do red.
Red, huh?
Yep.
Changing that, or?
I am second guessing it. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do red. I'm going to go with my original plan. I'm going to say another brown.
Oh my gosh, come on, dude. Come on, dude. I have no use for those. This is when I just start like being despondent, you know, like, oh man, I'm oh, this thing's over. I'm gonna lose this. Okay, so I'm gonna put it there. All right. A couple questions I think came through the chat. I actually we have kind of some generic shapes in the UI now. The question was if we had generic cubes in the UI. These particular cubes, I really wanted to get them to be the right colors. So we have the ability to do hand scanning, so we can take a cell phone and just sort of point it at an item and then scan it into a game session and do some cropping of it. So I actually scanned in some cards that came with the game and then crop them down to that size for usage. And then the player board, this thing here, we did scan same way. We just took a photo of it, and then you can add it into the game session. So there was a little bit of prep work to get things ready for playing Tiny Towns. In theory, we're thinking about if we'd have the ability to get assets from publishers who are interested in it. We're not sure if people would like that or not, where they could have things like this player board already in the system. But our goal is to be as flexible as possible. So we do allow you to just take pictures, drag them into the game session. So that's how that stuff got in. Good question. Okay, so now that I have 1,000 browns on the board, I'm going to... Oh man, I'm just realizing that I totally screwed myself down here because I'm gonna end up with at least one empty down there. I just didn't.
There's some ways out of it.
I didn't even think of. All right, I'm gonna call wheat. I'm second guessing myself. Forget the wheat. I'm gonna do.
Okay.
I'm gonna do red. Nope. Stone. I'm gonna do stone.
I like stone. I'm gonna make my theater.
Okay, so and yeah, Will, you're correct. So once everything is scanned in and we have kind of all those parts, you can then save that game session off to use in the future. So essentially now I have like a Tiny Towns saved game, and so any other time I'd want to play Tiny Towns, I would still need the board game, so I have all the cards and stuff. But then I could load all these assets in, just boom, all of a sudden. So yeah, you only have to do it one time, and then you're good to go. Okay, so you built your theater, right?
Yep.
Where did it go?
I put it right.
Oh yeah, down in the corner. I thought that was an abbey. Okay, and then I'm going to build my monument.
Oh, nice.
Which, is an interesting one. I've never played with this one. It's the Grand Mausoleum of the Rodina.
Oh, yep.
And so what that allows me to do is not have to feed my cottages. And so normally I would actually have to build a greenhouse, and I could use all these browns for something. But I'm not going to do that. And so I'm going to take these 4 away. And then I'm going to put that guy in the top corner. And you're up, Peter.
Okay. I'm going to say red.
Red.
Mm-hmm.
That's my that's my same response to every single time. Red, huh? All right, so okay. All right, and then I'm going to go glass.
Alrighty. I think we're on the same page here, except we're doing something slightly different. I'm gonna do yellow.
Okay, we're just over here building cottages. Just 2 buddies building cottages in towns next to each other. Are you actually building that cottage or not? You doing something different over there?
It's not a cottage. You'll see.
Oh, it's probably one of your. It's got to be your monument. Huh?
Yep.
Or some weird combo thing that you got going on. Some secret combo that's in the rule. It's in the back of the rule book. You have to.
Yeah, it's a secret recipe.
You have to peel off like a sticker, and it says Peter McPherson is allowed to build this one thing that nobody else is.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna build. I'm gonna build a cottage there. I put it. I guess. Okay. And I'm up now. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. So
Mhm.
I'm going to do. Um, Horrible mistake. All right. I'm going to call glass. A lot of glass on your board, so you're not able to do anything with that.
I've got an idea. If it pans out. Okay, I'm going to say yellow.
Hello.
And then I'm going to build my monument, which is Archive of the Second Age.
Ooh, what does that do?
Scores me 1 point for every building type in my town.
Oh, interesting. All right, so you got to be varied, and you can actually flip that over, Peter, with just double clicking on it. Should have mentioned. There you go.
Cool, that's neat.
All the people at home can.
And then I take the monument token here, and I'm going to put it right, I guess I'll put it right there.
So it's interesting, something that I didn't understand when I played early, and it seems like I have not internalized it because I'm making this same mistake, is if you build too many cheap buildings, you're out of the game early.
Yes.
And so then when you're out of the game, the other player just gets to continue to call whatever resource they want until they're done. So Peter's building more tricky. He's built some stuff that took more, right? So he built a warehouse, which takes 5. He built a theater that takes 4, and I've built a bunch of cottages. So you can see my board's going to fill up first, and when that happens, that's like catastrophe in a 2-player game, because then the 1 player left can just take whatever they want and pretty much optimize. And so I am in kind of a little bit of a dicey situation here, I feel like, but we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. Is that my turn?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna call. Let's see what you got out there. I'd love to just keep calling glass, because that's my MO. But I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call red as well.
Okay. Yeah, naming glass a lot is often good because it usually means you have to start a new building.
Right, because there's only one. There's only one per building. Yes, exactly.
Yep,
So
most of the time.
You're kind of forcing the other person to have to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
and you're gonna call another one in just a second. That's rough. Okay, I'm gonna name yellow.
Okay.
And then I'm going to finally use that blue I tucked up there way back when and make a cottage.
Okay,
cottage,
finally used it.
Really late. People actually live in my town now. And I'm gonna put it.
Oh man, a yellow,
there.
huh?
A yellow.
Oh yeah. Okay, hold on. Oh no. Okay. All right, I can think I might be able to work my way out of it. That is kind of the name of the game in this game. It's like your plan's falling apart, then having to figure out some way to build a building and build yourself some more space. All right, so I am going to do. I actually wasn't going to do a glass. Let the record show that I was not going to do a glass. But I'm going to call one now because you messed up my plans. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to call glass. I'm not.
Okay.
Back. Taking it all back. I'm going to call red.
Ooh, red. Do I like red? I don't know if I do. Red is fine. Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to build a cottage also. Up in the corner. And you're up.
Oh, I didn't even see you had one over there.
Yeah, I put my wheat that you forced me right here.
Yeah, because I keep thinking
that way.
I keep thinking you're gonna put your cottages together because of greenhouse, but you don't have to because of your monument.
Right. I was trying to hide my monument for as long as possible so that you wouldn't know that I didn't need the greenhouses. But then it takes up 4 spaces, so it's like you gotta build it eventually. So I just bit the bullet and built it.
All right, I'm going to name a gray.
Okay, I can work with that. Let's see, we got some questions coming in. So thematically, you are ordering in base materials, then using them to pop in either the shown buildings or the special monuments you have face down. Are all the face-up cards available face-up to build whenever? Yes, they are. So all the stuff out here in the middle, we can build whenever. And then the monument, you also can build whenever, but you can only build one. And the only person who can build it is the person who has the monument card. So once that comes flipped over, it's not like Peter can build mine or I can build his.
And so other than cottage, there are 4 versions of each building type. There are 4 cards that correspond to each meeple, sort of like how in Quacks of Quedlinburg you can have different things that different ingredients do. Each building can do different things depending on the game. So you end up with tons of different setups because you just shuffle the cards each time, and then you shuffle the monument cards too. So you always get a different monument.
And what's interesting is you do end up with some weird, nasty combos sometimes that are kind of mind-bending. Like last night, my wife played with a card or a building that can act as a wild resource. And so is it the factory trading post? The trading post, and then you can actually use that building when you're building out patterns for whatever resource you want it to be. And then she had a monument that let her put her buildings wherever she wanted them to go. So then a nice combo, yeah. So
that's one of the crazier ones.
So she could build buildings using the trading post and then immediately place them wherever she wanted on the board and keep doing that. So she kind of built her own little like factory corner, building stuff down there and then just putting it out on the board. It was a unique kind of emergent moment. Like, and I don't know how many of those things you explicitly planned, Peter, or you just kind of like found as you started working with them, because that felt kind of planned.
That was one we stumbled upon.
Okay.
We were like, oh, and then we were like, is that a broken combo? Nah. And you beat her last night, right?
I did, and and you know what did it for me was that monument doesn't score any points.
Right.
So she had that dead square, and I had the monument that I think I got 2 points for every. It was like 2 points for everything that was adjacent to it, unique maybe or something like that, and so I got 8 points for that one monument, and then that was the difference maker. So it I didn't think it was overpowered. It was just a unique kind of way to play.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so I just announced, right? I announced that gray.
No, I picked that gray.
Oh, you did? Yeah, because I said gray I can work with. You're right. Luckily. And yeah, that question, the actions you take on your turn, you announce a resource, put it in play, and this all happens at the same time. It's not like I have to go, then Peter has to go. We'll do it at the same time. Everybody who's playing can do it at the same time. You place it on your card, and then if you're able to build any buildings, you can build them. And everybody does it at the same time. There's no order at all. So when you're playing with 6 people or 4 people and everybody knows how to play, it can actually go really fast. With us playing here, we're kind of like going back and forth pretty slowly. But it can, everyone's just sort of grabbing their stuff and building things. I mean, you have to trust that the other people know what they're doing and they're not cheating, I suppose. But yeah, the games can go pretty quickly. All right, so I'm going to do another stone.
Ooh, wasn't expecting that. That's not my favorite, but let me think here.
And Will, that's right. Only the hammer player calls the material. So the hammer will rotate around the board, and whoever has the hammer is the master builder, and the master builder calls out the resource.
Yep.
And there are some monuments. There's at least, I think there's only one that you can no longer be the master builder. And so every turn that it comes around to you, it just skips you. And that's a really hard monument to play. You have to play it really kind of right at the end.
Yep. For Ironweed, that's a tricky one.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I think we're doing the same thing here. I'm gonna name a blue.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna make my Abbey.
I'm gonna do the same.
Uh-oh, I grabbed my board.
It should sink down below everything, so.
It does.
Okay,
so
cool.
I just have to like
align it a little bit.
Realign. Oh, I had everything so aligned. Oh, that's pretty easy. Cool.
Yep, there you go.
Nice. Okay. So I moved the blue up there. Yep.
That Abbey, and what are the things it can't be near? So the Abbey only scores if it's not next to a inn or a theater or a factory. So hide mine up there on the top row. Okay, so now it's my turn. Is that right?
Yep.
I think I just keep forgetting to move the hammer.
Yep.
And I was gonna. It's kind of funny. So for people who are at home, you know, there's no board here for Peter, so like I'm moving the hammer just over into like a blank space on my desk.
Yeah.
So I kind of getting to. Okay, so I'm gonna do a. Oh, you have a full kind of area. You have just an open area over there. Mister Efficiency is going. All right, I'm gonna do a class.
Hmm. Okay. I will do a stone.
Stone. Stone. Huh? I'm just gonna take this opportunity to build a shed down in the bottom corner. And it's my call, and I'm going to call brick or red. And I'm gonna build a whatchamacallit here, a
Mm-hmm.
cottage. Piling up the cottages.
All right. I know what's coming my way shortly. I'm gonna name a yellow to get all this out of here.
Okay.
Make a cottage.
You named a yellow. Oh man. Oh man. You're gonna get to go on a little run here at the end.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh no. All right, so you named a yellow. Okay, I'm going to put that. You can really kind of screw me on this next call if I'm not careful. If you name a wood, which you're going to, I'm gonna be in the hurt box. That's fine. I can ditch that wood. That's fine. I have nothing to do down there anyway. Okay, I'm gonna put the yellow here, and it's my call.
Yep.
And I'm going to call a stone.
Oh, that is one of the more awkward things you could have said.
Hoping to make it easy for you.
Yep.
I think you thought I was going to call a glass, right?
Glass would have been worse.
Oh, really? Dang it.
Yeah, you want to change your mind?
No.
Okay. And so, yes, I am going to name a brown now.
I'm going to ditch it down in the corner.
And then I'll make a theater.
Coming out of the chat. When you build, Will, you have to place it in one of the squares that had your resource. So
Yep.
you make the pattern, and you then have to put the building in one of the squares that was in the pattern. And you do have to follow the geometric pattern that's on the building card, but you can mirror it or flip it anyway. So it's really just that you get the pattern, not which direction it's facing. It's almost like if you're spinning like a Tetris piece, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what'd you build there? You built
Another theater?
Another theater. Those theaters are going to be point scores.
Yeah, and they work
Yeah.
well with my monument.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because essentially you want to just be super versatile or
Hmm.
varied. Yeah. Okay. So that was your call, the brown, and then I'm gonna call a glass to make myself a in.
Hmm.
And I'm actually I'm in a tricky situation with this in because I want it to score, but I can't have it next to my abbey. That would
Right.
undermine my abbey. So I only have one position to score it, which was bad planning on my part. But it is what it is. You got kudos. You got a kudos in chat, Peter. Kudos.
Oh,
So
a kudos for what?
for making the game, just for
Oh, awesome.
the game is well designed.
Cool. Thank you.
Goes in the chat.
Alrighty. So it's my call then.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to say a gray.
All right. Well, that actually, thank you. That's essentially the
Oh
only
yeah.
thing I can do anything with. So I'm gonna build a bed. That at least my market. Or, excuse me, my theater. Oh, he already had one. Okay. And then I'm gonna call. Let's see. What's the worst thing I could call for you?
Yep, that's what you do.
So you're gonna be building a inn there, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
And just down there, probably a shed at some point to get the credit for that with your theater. So I'm gonna say red.
Yeah, red is pretty rough. But that's going to fill one of your spaces, so you're not going to get to name another one. So knowing that, I can put the red there.
Yeah, and then you're safe from me. You get to call, and now we're in this position. I was talking about it earlier. Pete can just go nuts. He can just keep calling
Yep.
everything he wants, and then I'll just whatever he calls first, I'll put in my final square.
Yep, so I'm going to call a yellow to make that in.
Okay.
And now instead of going through the motions and placing all the resources,
Yeah, you
I'll
can.
just put the buildings that can fit, which
Yep.
is really what I do when I'm playing. So then I can put the inn there. And then, well, I'll just show that I can make the cottage like that.
Yep.
So
So it really didn't hamper you too much. I mean, it was probably the worst color I could call for you, but you were able to work it out.
another gray would, well, I was in a pretty good, I was in a pretty lucky
Yeah, I guess a
situation
gray would have
there.
been problematic as well.
Yep, so I'll make the cottage and then I can fit another cottage right in there.
Yep.
And then I can fit, I can
To
place a brown to do a shed and then make a last shed.
Yep. So you'd end up with
So,
one blank and two sheds.
mm-hmm.
Right. So let's just not score my board. I'm sorry. Thank you everybody for coming to the thank you everybody for coming to the stream. Good night. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So now we'll go through scoring.
Sure. Do you want me to just score really
Yeah, sure.
quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so over on your board, you've got your 5 cottages, and you don't need to feed them because you made the Grand Mausoleum, which says your cottages are still worth 3 points, even though they're unfed.
Yep.
So that's 15 points in cottages. 2 points in your sheds makes 17. Your theater here has 1, 2, 3, 4 different building types, so that's 21. Your inns are all worth 3 for 9 more, so that's 30. And then you have 1, 2, 3 empty spaces, so 27, which is not a bad score at all. Does that calculation sound right to you?
I believe
27.
so.
Oh, and then no, I
Oh
forgot
yeah,
your
3
Abbey
points.
there for 3, so 30, which is
30.
a really solid score.
I'll take 30. Yep.
Okay, and then over here I have 4 fed cottages because they're on a contiguous group. They didn't have to be adjacent to my greenhouse, but they happen to be. So that is 12, and then I have 2 abbeys here that aren't adjacent to any of the bad types they don't want to be. So that's another 6 for 18. I have 2 sheds for 20. My warehouse, I didn't put anything in it, so I didn't get negative points for that. My monument, I built all 7 building types, I believe, so that's 27. My theater here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the same row and column. So that is 32. And then this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because there's a repeat of the end there.
Yep.
So that's 37. And then -1 for 36.
Okay.
And then my two ends are six
Oh
points
yeah.
for 42.
42. So 42 to 30. That's a pretty significant victory for Peter, but I'll take it.
But no, that was a good score on your board for sure. You worked really well with that, with the with what resources I was throwing at you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I would have changed in another playthrough. I might have just gone really crazy or crazy cottages. I did.
That would have been trouble for me for sure. I would have filled up my warehouse had you kept on spamming yellows and reds.
Yeah, that because you ended up using a lot more of the glass and stone, and since I
Yep.
started building inns, it just wasn't. And then I went for the abbey and stuff, and like I didn't. I don't know. I think my problem was I tried to almost build just too many things. I should have
Yep.
just really kind of focused on one or the other.
Yep.
But
My
yeah,
score
that's
was 41. I lost one for the negative space. I forgot to mention.
okay,
So, for what
cool.
it's worth. Yeah.
So that's a playthrough. So hopefully everybody who's here got kind of a feel for how the game works. We had a couple questions that came up right towards the end. Um, do I feel in a better place with how much you have to be as like the local player? So there is kind of this thing with Vorpal Board that whoever's the local player kind of inherits, depending on the game, inherits some more responsibilities in terms of just like managing game state and stuff. For this particular game, I inherit almost nothing because
Mhm.
Pete can do almost everything himself. If we're playing a game where I have to kind of move his pieces around, or he's telling me, "Oh, I want you to put something here or there," then it's my problem. Those are more my problems. But for Tiny Towns, this is like incredibly easy for me personally. So I think it just varies on the game. We've built a generalized tool. Some games work better than others, is really what it comes down to. My little plug here for folks who weren't here at the very beginning. Tiny Towns is coming out this month, April 26th. You can get it at your local game stores, and then you'll be able to get it online and internationally starting May 10th. It will be $39.99. It plays 1 through 6 players right out of the box, which is primo, and it is designed by the wonderful Peter McPherson. Thank you for coming onto the stream with me. I've had a great time
Yeah, thank you
playing.
so much for having me. It's
And
been awesome.
then Vorpal Board, this is our platform, and we are coming to Kickstarter April 22nd. So maybe save some extra money so you can both buy Tiny Towns and back the Vorpal Board Kickstarter at the end of April. But yeah, we'll be coming to Kickstarter, and we will be actually, as part of the Kickstarter itself, we have an arm that holds your cell phone over the table, and then we have a scanning box which you use to scan cards into the game. This is what it looks like. It's made out of wood. It folds down when you're done using it. It's almost like a little document scanner. You put the cards in the top here, and then they scan and they appear in the game, kind of how you see the cards that we're playing with today. And that will be all included as part of the Kickstarter that we're coming at the end of the month. If you're looking for more information, check out vorpalboard.com or at vorpalboard on Twitter, and you can join our mailing list or follow me there. Peter, what did you think about the system? What was it like playing as a remote player?
It was really intuitive. I mean, it's as simple as clicking and dragging stuff. So I felt like you showed me the ropes at the beginning, and you're right that this game is simple enough. I didn't have to use many of the advanced features like flipping the card at the beginning. But I can see how intuitive that is. If I double click this, does it go back to hidden?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really cool and simple. And then I like all the different options that pop up whenever I click on anything. It was easy to populate the resources. So yeah, I'm not used to playing any games at all on my Chromebook, so it was nice to actually have that capability.
Yeah, that's actually a nice thing to say. So I actually had never tested the system running, and I was crossing my fingers earlier today that everything would work on your side. I'd never had it actually running
Hmm.
on a Chromebook before. I didn't mention, but this whole thing runs inside a browser. It requires no software on anybody's part, and it'll run on an iPad. It'll run on a Chromebook. You actually can run it on your cell phone, but the screen is so small that
Hmm.
it's kind of useless. But if you were interested, you could start the thing up on your cell phone and use it. So we're trying to make it so you can run it. It's like just takes no resources if possible. You can run it wherever. So that's good. It was really good playing it with you, and I appreciate everybody coming by to see me. We are going to be streaming a bunch more of these kind of designer chats in the coming weeks. So follow the channel if you think this is a cool thing that you might want to check out in the future. And thanks for coming. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks for having me.